This week, we're talking about our front yard micro-farm. Welcome, gardeners, to this week's Garden Journal here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm really glad to have all of you along with us here for our look around our micro-farm. But before we get started, be sure to give us a big thumbs up. Click on that like button down below, as well as click the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you get notified of upcoming garden adventures here on our channel, as well as our live stream show on Saturdays, the Let's Get Growing show. Plus, be sure to share this channel with all of your garden friends and your gardening groups. So this last year, we prepped up these two big 20-foot by 40-foot garden plots in my friend's front yard here. He's got this really cool big corner lot here in his neighborhood. And so we tilled all this up, prepped up the beds and everything with the intention of growing a bunch of pepper plants. And we were growing cherry pepper plants in order to harvest the peppers to make a pepper jelly that we were, in our mind, thinking at first was that we were going to kind of create a product, see what we can do with possibly selling that at local farmers markets and other type of consignment markets that they have around town. But I think ultimately we ended up, both of us, getting just a little too busy after we had planted all the plants out and gotten everything ready, that when it came down time for harvest and all of that, our intentions kind of were a little bigger than we thought when it came down to it. We ended up with a ton of cherry peppers, and we did actually make some cherry pepper relish to kind of try it out, see how things were going. And then we're thinking that possibly what we would do the next season is really kind of work harder at making the finished product. But ultimately we decided that, it was a bit more than what we were looking to do when it came down to that. So this year we have got the plots all prepped and ready to go, and what we're going to be doing is kind of setting up a sort of CSA micro farm where we're going to grow out a bunch of different types of fruits and vegetables and maybe offer them here in the neighborhood, because he's got this really cool neighborhood here where, as we've been working over the last days and even during different days of working in the garden last year, you get a lot of people who are watching and checking in and asking questions and interested in what we were doing here in this big front yard micro farm. So our thoughts were to possibly grow a bunch of different things and then possibly see if maybe some people would want to maybe purchase some of that stuff, as they become ready. And as you can see, we got a bunch of garlic that we set into the ground this last fall. And now that the weather's warming up here this spring, they are up and growing really nicely. So we'll have a ton of garlic here to get started with, and a bunch of other things as well too. So what we'll do here is I'll kind of take you around. We'll kind of look at some of the things that we've got and some of the ideas that we have for things that will grow here later on. And then as the season progresses, I'll try to come out here for more garden journals and kind of show you along how things are going. And hopefully the project will be just a little bit more successful this year than what we ended up with last year. So first up here, we've got right in this center plot, we've got some peas that I brought out cages for, so they can kind of climb up and have something to hold on to. And then kind of right down here, I'm sure you're wondering, what is this? We've got a bunch of paper grocery bags that are kind of interlocked together, running down this part of the plot. And what we're doing here is we're trying to keep the underneath of all of this nice and wet and moist, as what I did is I sowed out carrot seeds. And carrot seeds are not gonna like drying out. You're not gonna get a very good germination out of them if the soil is allowed to dry out. So a good method is to either take boards or cardboard, or in this case, we've got these paper grocery bags that are all the way down the plot there where we've sown our different varieties of carrots, in order to keep everything nice and moist underneath of there. And then I'm just kind of wetting them down throughout the days and trying to just, again, make sure that we get the best germination rate as possible out of there. And then I think we planted out like some beets, kind of going down the along the front end of those carrots from this side of this center plot. This is a pretty wide plot here that we've got in the middle. So we've got one side, and then down the other side here, we've got a bunch of different onions that we planted out. I think we got 3 different varieties. Walla Walla. We've got some red onions as well as some candy onion, I believe is what we had. So I didn't get very much as far as seeds started up or anything, so we did use starts, and I planted these all out the other day. And these things will be standing up nice and straight and forming some nice onion bulbs here really soon. And we planted out some potatoes here in the end of the bed here. And I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna do quite yet with this front one here, but I'm sure we'll do something like maybe cucumbers, maybe some melons or something like that is what we're kind of thinking about for right now. And then, as I mentioned before, we've got all of our garlic. This is a really nice hard neck garlic, a German garlic that I got from viewer Nancy. And over the last couple of years, I've grown out a bunch of it and saved seed from last year for this year, and we had a lot. So I thought it would be a good idea to start with garlic for our first crop out of the plot for this year. We planted these all out this last fall, and you can see right down the middle here, going right up the middle of the plot there between the garlic, we've got some spinach. And that's kind of one of my next projects I got to do today, is go through and kind of thin these out a little bit. There's places where, you know, the seeds were kind of close together, and we've got several plants growing right close together. And in order to get the best out of this as possible, we're going to want to thin them out. And so I'll get that done here in just a little bit. And then over here in this plot here, which we don't have much going on quite yet, but I did plant out some squash. I believe we've got some spaghetti squash, and then we're going to do some butternut squash as well too. And I think what we want to do here is put some corn in for our couple of these plots here closer to the house. And what we'll do is we'll have the squash kind of crawling up underneath of our corn stalks, and then a little bit later, as our corn gets up just a little bit taller, we'll put in some beans, and we'll grow some beans there, as well as we'll do tomatoes, peppers, and again maybe some more cucumbers and things like that that will grow in for the other parts of the spaces that we have. Maybe some more potatoes up front, but you know, just a nice wide variety of things instead of the monocrop that we tried to do last season. That just ended up being just a little too much. So hopefully what we'll have here is a bunch of really good stuff here, and then plenty of it, so a lot of the people who are driving by in the neighborhood and asking us what we got growing on, well, we can offer them some of the bounty that we harvest out of these as we get growing later on in the season. So there we go. We've done some thinning there. Just kind of got all of those plants that are all just kind of bunched together, separated, giving them just a little bit more space. We'll let them grow just a little bit more over the next week or two, and then maybe we'll thin out just a little bit more, but that'll give these the best shot, growing and giving us the best crop we can get. So there we go, a nice look around and a few things that I've got taken care of here. We've got those spinach all thinned out. We put up the cages for our peas. We've got a whole bunch of really cool things growing on this year in our front yard micro farm, and lots more to come as well too in the coming weeks. We'll be adding to these plots. Like I mentioned, we've got a bunch of different ideas of what we want to do and what we want to grow and what we'll end up having available for some of the people who keep passing by here and asking me, what do I got growing on here? Well, we've got tons of things growing on, and especially now after our last video that I shared with you, we do get to keep our home gardening spaces as well too. So much gardening to do, so much gardening coming up, and I'm really glad to be able to share that all with you here on the Urban Gardener channel. So be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and hit the like button, click on that subscribe button, push the bell notification so you can be notified of all of our great fun gardening adventures here on the Urban Gardener channel. And also be sure to check out our live show that we have on Saturday mornings, Let's Get Growing, where we're doing some really cool interviews and conversations with some of the garden community's awesomest gardeners, and it's going to be really fun as we move on into our summer seasons coming up here with lots more really awesome guests. So be sure to check that out as well too on Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll see you there, and I'll see you on the next Garden Journal. We tilled up and prepped all of these all of these, all of them, there's only two. See if we can't get this done in between cars cruising by. Neighbors peeping in on what we're doing. We did grow lots of pepper plants in these plots after we prepared them. One of those interesting things that always seems to happen when I'm filming. I was out here doing a bunch of stuff, getting things kind of watered in and all of that, and there was nobody around, hardly any traffic, but I click record on the recorder, and next thing you know, there's people everywhere, traffic driving all over the place. That's just the fun of making videos out here and out in the public.